see now audio.
Okay, let's test 1, 2, 3. Testing audio.
Okay, let me try the audio. Apply. Okay. Say something.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing, testing. Are you using the computer
Yeah.
speaker? Okay. So I think as long as we're nearby this, it should be fine.
Yeah, with the microphone especially, should be fine.
So your mic didn't pick up as well, or?
Yeah, this is now, I disabled this one. It's just, no,
Do we need to turn up the gain on this one at all?
Hmm?
Do we need to turn up the gain on this one?
It's already the loudest.
Okay. All right.
I mean, if we speak through, we'll be fine.
Yeah.
I can hear you through here. So. Hear myself.
Okay. So that. Wait a second.
Died? A little bit. It's been a busy week. I flew in from San Francisco last night.
Oh, did you? I did the thing where I would go fly in at 11 p.m. and it would arrive here in the morning.
Oh no, I cannot do that anymore. Too old for that now.
Too old for that.
I have good skincare. I look older than I look. It's like a 20-something-year-old. Thick red eye. But
Cool.
Yeah, for BrowserStack?
yes.
Somebody's been for front of the page. Then you will come.
1905 is the room for July.
Yes. I think he's one of the people that are organizing all of
Yeah,
this.
he needs me
So
out.
I had a meeting with one of them today to go over the slides and stuff like that.
So we have to move on to the new room.
We have events all of the. I think we're going to have at least 500 events this year. Really? We try to be kind of platform agnostic. I think we'll see kind of a big shift. A lot of Cypress is kind of dying.
Cypress, yeah, Cypress conference is coming actually. But Cypress is also.
It is.
Maybe downtown.
Yeah, the coffee. Yeah.
Which one is good, I think?
Yeah.
I think the next one is there's many more options.
And then especially Microsoft is running the show now, so anytime Microsoft touches something, it turns to gold. Right?
No, actually this same team they acquired from group.
Yeah.
Who went to
Yeah.
So these guys are, you know,
Now they basically this is how I see
Korea, Japan.
that's all.
these are for coffee, if you want water, there's water.
So this, yeah, this is for like instant.
It's a playwright is a refined version and plus one version of this.
I used Puppeteer way back, maybe like 2014.
Yeah.
And, I don't know, it's kind of early stages. These guys have this browser, it's like do some automation. Yeah. Playwright's definitely much more.
Playwright is getting more and more.
Still, I think the big thing right now is mobile testing on Playwright.
Yeah, but playwright is most. And
But
Appium is more closer to the real ecosystem.
Oh, Mr.
We have so many customers asking.
You're connected to the.
When can you support
Just the microphones are
iOS
connected,
on
correct?
Playwright, like
For the
physical iOS devices?
No, just this is just video.
No, I mean
The
the.
framework itself doesn't have support
You're only,
yet.
it's
so
only for that,
As
right?
soon as that's ready,
Yeah.
we'll support it on WebdriverStack, but we're not gonna build it.
No, Appium is more closer to the actual.
You can use it to drive real devices. That's what we use primarily. We also support like Espresso and like CUI tasks.
Is there any of the stuff they want us to set up, or they set that up as well?
Do you have anything set up in the BrowserStack side?
Like physically?
Yeah.
No, it's just my presentation.
Presentation. And
I think
Because there's like some stuff that we dropped off.
Anusha, I think she might be a little bit late.
oh, okay, it's just
I don't know what she's prepared on her side.
Oh, okay, alright. And then the food and drink.
I've just been told, like literally last week, we need someone to fly out to New York to cover this event. So.
all right.
Alright.
Thank you.
All the logistics of it should have already been taken care of by someone else, but I'm not.
Because your boss was supposed to come here, right? CTO.
I think they'll be coming here later. So what ended up happening is we rescheduled them. There's another event, there was a customer event happening right now in Soho. And then they're gonna finish that up. So we're gonna two. They're gonna come up here and.
Alright, through which,
But the timing didn't work out, but they couldn't go directly.
BrowserStack.
So we needed me to come here, just to bridge the gap.
Appreciate that.
Also, I haven't gotten briefed on any swag. I think there will be, maybe.
We'll see.
We had another customer event on Tuesday, and we had a lot of things like standing cups and milk books and stuff like that. I can't promise the
Come
same.
in, grab a sticker.
I don't know what they have for that.
Uh,
There's something over there. Maybe.
And then, yeah,
I wouldn't bring my laptop, it's just thinking I was doing my laptop.
no. There's nothing, it's just me strictly on speakers, yeah. Feel free to just relax. Yeah, I've got to bring mine. It's too big to fit in the bag. Yeah, so on stream I usually have like a massive, it's huge, it's about this big. So every time like I'm on or I have an event, I always bring this up with me. And I've got it there. Oh, so I'll take the car. Oh, make yourself at home. Sorry, short.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you. there's one right here. Right inside.
Oh, there's right.
Let's go. Okay.
You're presenting
Okay.
it. Hi. Christian.
There's one right here. Yeah.
I think you look underdressed now.
Feel free to drop yourself down if you're doing that. Hey, makes good impression, right?
Yeah, Misha said she's coming over.
Yeah, he was
Oh, you said every Monday?
every once in a while, whenever they do it, but I think this is like, this is the lowest.
This is a little work.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really nice. I was carrying these when we
How do you organize this or like how do you do this one like if I do the milestone?
for the paper. I don't know how they're this is done. This is the first time I've had this. They just shipped it overseas because they're based in the UK. So
They're based in
yeah, you could probably on there. There's always a way to.
My phone is all
You can go on the Ministry of Testing website. Or a member.
Can you
I think so it is some books, right?
They have a lot of great stuff, a lot of talks that are on there. It's really, really great. And
Just to make everything easier
Slack
to roll.
communities, I guess my spiel was that it's good to on here.
So you are also part from the testing?
Yes, I started as a QA back when, and now it's like a test admin involved. So now my day job is software here, working in mobile apps. So this is like passion. I started with ministry testing, other pretty much people who all went the same circle. So it's nice to do the community.
This is the, what do you call this logo?
The roll up.
What is it called?
Is there really video?
I don't know, this is like there was a lot, you know?
These are like
Yes, please. No. These are sodas.
Ah, okay.
I can't drink.
The fridge on the other side.
Up here?
Here's put on this table here.
Oh my God, I'm sure. Okay. I'm sure.
tomorrow you took the day off?
No. Don't tell my boss. Just your presentation. Do you think it's possible to try again to share it?
I don't think we can share it. It's restricted, the whole thing.
Do you have animations? Because I
I
could also,
turned all the animations off.
can you send me the PDF then?
I can't export it.
It's not supported?
It's been marked as confidential and cannot be shared at all.
Damn, okay.
Yeah, it's one of the data control policies. Sometimes they get in the way.
Okay, well,
Can you just highlight pin me, and then you can unpin me later?
yeah, that's what I'm gonna do.
And then I'll just
Let
have
me
to
actually create
click this.
Oh, yeah, so there's
a Zoom scene.
Yeah, if you had, I don't know.
Thing is also how to use it.
Okay. All right. So. I think to your BrowserStack. Thought I had you.
Huh?
What is SEO? That's just kidding.
Yes.
I think I only need Mac chapter because I use mine over there.
So I have, but it's the newer map. It's not a.
No, I need the brick.
On the brick here. What's this? This is USB-C, right?
No, I have my own chapter.
You need an extension outside, an extension here. With the USB.
Oh no, should be fine.
No?
But the problem is that you won't be able to.
Hey, just wanted to say hi.
Hi.
Eric, sorry, I actually.
Oh, I know you.
Yeah, I contributed a bunch a while back. Yeah, how have you been?
We've been on a couple of meetings, I remember that.
Yeah.
You was a JW player, right?
Yes.
Are you still with them?
No, I was actually let go about 14 months ago, like August 2023. The whole team I worked with, they let me go. So.
Go to the back and take over the people who say,
Oh yeah.
I remember you were in New York area. Invited me.
Yeah. Well, no. Thankfully, I. Yeah. It's
On the board, on the wall. This is
you know, my colleague, my Sophia, he Mark was still a little here then, so he found it and quit.
Are you still looking for it?
I thankfully ended up to a big role,
Yeah, like quality that comes first. Huh?
Yeah. I mean, like most you know, they don't care. So, you know,
Actually, I will reach out to you again because I would like to have your feedback on building like my own company on the side a little bit.
sure.
Hopefully replace like get rid of that.
By AI.
Find something, yeah.
Yeah, and actually that's kind of why I came here. So particularly for this one, Yeah, I think you're gonna have essentially a small dogs in the leader, just multiply yourself. You have, yeah.
Definitely for marketing purposes, those kind of things support. You can move people out there. I just don't know like the engineering of this.
I will say it's probably for generating test code, probably small.
Yeah, so that
tonight, anything? Or are you going to bed?
We'll see.
Oh, it was so good to sleep in the mountain bed last night. It was alright. I've stayed in worse. I mean, I would say like solid. Yeah. Open up right underneath the plant. The next time, well, like I said, Jersey City or Hoboken. I mean, even Newark would have been better. Anyone sitting here?
You might be broadcasting with that microphone.
Daniel, you guys sitting here? Or is it
I'm sitting here because I'm presenting first.
Okay, I'm gonna sit right here. I don't want to sit too much.
We started off now. I don't know what people, but it's already 6 o'clock. We have to have at least one speaker. And someone will be doing that space until like no one told me. You disconnect. You know who's gonna be first speaking, or like I'll start off since it's.
So just going through my slides. So I think Hari is going next, then Satyam, and Umer,
And Christians, yeah. Okay, so yeah, I'll just like start welcoming everyone. We'll start getting into it, introduce you, and then you can introduce your 3 speakers.
What time do you want to start?
Yeah, I was gonna start now since it's already like 6 o'clock. Pretty much be a little bit behind, at least 6 o'clock. We'll start with the first person.
Let me just change the stream.
You know what I gotta give you? OBS control because you're using OBS or Zoom.
I'm using OBS.
Oh, there's you can control it from your phone, the OBS. I can show you another time. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we should be good.
Yeah. Turn off the music.
Do you want to start?
Yeah, I'll just do intros quickly and then. Alright. How's it going, everyone? Thanks for showing up. This is the Ministry of Testing and BrowserStack meetups. If you guys want, could move up a little bit, fill in, so I don't have to yell as much. But yeah, once again, thanks for joining Ministry of Testing and the BrowserStack meetup. I'll be introducing first Daniel from BrowserStack. Daniel?
Hello. Thanks for coming, everyone. Really appreciate it. I know it's probably hard to come here after work. You're tired, but you're here to have fun, learn something, maybe connect with someone, and have a good time. We've got some pizza in the back. We have a vegetarian and a chicken option, but they all have onions. So I hope you like onions. All right. So I guess we'll get started here. I'll introduce myself. I'm Daniel Wan. I'm a customer engineer at BrowserStack. And previously, before that, I was a software engineer for over 10 years, working at various companies like Lyft or SigFig. And I've been at BrowserStack for over 2 years now as a customer engineer. I like to make jokes, so that's great. I get to see customers face to face and talk to them. And I'm based out of San Francisco, so I flew out last night, and I'm a little bit tired. But I'm here for you, and you give me energy, so I'm glad. Before we get started here, I have this QR code. So we have the Slido integration. If you could pull out your cell phones and scan this, and I think if you're watching on the YouTube stream, probably this will work as well. All right. So the first question here is, what testing tools do you commonly use and why? So just, if you need to use the Wi-Fi here, I think you can.
There's just one right answer to this.
No, there's many answers, right? X-ray. Okay. And yeah, you can submit multiple answers. There's only, you don't have to just use one tool.
You have someone writing WebdriverIO.
I'm going to write.
Just wondering, among the tools that you're using, how many of you actually like them versus you use them because that's what your company uses and you have to? Just want to see, you like the tools you use, and you're using them because you have to. I personally like Jira, by the way, just FYI. Been using Jira for like 15 years. Okay, cool. So we've got Selenium WebDriver, okay. Oh, but there's many implementations of that. I wonder if there's a specific type of WebDriver. Cool. All right. I think you can continue answering. We have one more participant, and I think we'll move on to the next slide. All right. Yes, WebdriverIO. I think some people were fishing for that answer. All right. Okay. So just wanted to see how many of you use BrowserStack at all. Okay. So if you had to describe BrowserStack in one word, what would it be? And again, the same web page that you used, it'll work. The question should have updated. And I'm just wondering, for those of you who have used BrowserStack, how long have you been using it? Are you like an OG from like 2011, or did you just start using it? Just want to see you've been using it for more than 5 years. Okay, not really. More than 2 years. Okay, just one hand over there.
So I used more than 2 years, but I don't use it.
Okay, cool. I consider you a veteran. Thank you. Yeah. All right. So how about within the last 6 months you've used BrowserStack? Okay. Cool. All right. So I see just wanted to show what do you think of BrowserStack when you see it? Is it just like a tool for a specific problem, or is it something more broad? We got some. Oh, it's expensive. Okay. Well, maybe you and I can work out a deal. I can work out a deal. Not really. And lastly, what was the last testing of community event that you attended? So was it another WDIO event, another BrowserStack event, maybe a competitor, maybe a testing event for just QA dating apps or something? Sorry, let me know if my jokes are too unfunny. I can stop. Here's another joke for you. What do you call a developer who doesn't code?
Tester.
The manager. Or another answer, which is more serious, construction worker.
Oh.
Or another answer, which is also less funny than the last one, a coder who does not write bugs. Okay, cool. All right, that's the last slide, I promise. I want to kind of introduce BrowserStack to those of you who are not familiar with it. And it's, people have a lot of different conceptions about what BrowserStack is, and maybe those were correct at one point in time. But we're going through another paradigm shift. For example, when we first started, I think, let me skip this slide. So when we first started in 2011, our two co-founders, Ritesh and Nakul, were working on a different startup actually, and they had a problem, and actually faced the same problem in the same year myself. I was working at the federal contracting company, and we had to support IE6. Who remembers IE6? That was the browser that shipped with XP, I believe. Yeah, so that's like 2003. I don't know, it was really bad. So they had the same problem because they had 2 MacBooks just like this over here. And they didn't know how do we access Internet Explorer. And they said, okay, let's build it ourselves. And then they invited some people to use it. And there was basically a clamoring of people saying, let me use your thing. Let me pay you money. make this better. Let expand it, and then eventually they said, hey, this is a better idea than what we were currently working on. Let's scrap that idea and work on this instead. So that's when the origin of BrowserStack happened. And then they added automation testing, not just manual testing. They added real mobile devices, and then they started adding mobile application testing, visual testing. And kind of right now we're in the maybe third or fourth paradigm shift, I would say, and we're really launching into kind of the platform model. So instead of having device fragmentation as the problem, there's tools fragmentation, right? How many of you use Jira, Slack, you use all these different tools, and then they don't talk to each other, they don't collaborate, or if you integrate them, it's extremely hard. So BrowserStack is kind of building a platform, and this platform is kind of the next evolution of BrowserStack. So we're not just in cross-browser testing, we're not just in app testing, we're not just in one silo, we're in an end-to-end experience for a developer or a tester, right? So everything from developing your test cases, from your PRD, we can read your PRD, we can generate test cases from that PRD, we can generate automation scripts from that as well with using AI, and then we can execute that all on our platform end to end. Of course, we also support Selenium WebDriver, WebdriverIO, Playwright, Cypress, all of those, Appium, all those different frameworks out there we support. But I think bringing things together is kind of like a fundamental idea we have at BrowserStack, where we want to bring the whole end-to-end experience in one platform. And one of the things that we do with this is there's like this platform, the data sharing, right? So the data that lives in Slack is not the data that lives in Jira. That's not the data that lives in your testing framework, right? But if you use BrowserStack, and especially with our SDK, all of those data live together in one platform, and we can give you test insights that you can't get elsewhere. We can notify you of when things break. We can tell you what we think the bugs are. If there's one root cause that's causing 30 tests to fail, we'll clear that out and say like, hey, you've got one unique error spread across all of these different things. So it really takes this kind of fragmented approach and puts it all together. And underneath all of that, or maybe on top of all of that, is this AI layer, which kind of magically connects the dots, right? So instead of having like 5 or 10 different products, there's just one product that kind of seamlessly flows from one side to the other. And so, on the left side here, we have functional testing, smoke testing, our mobile cloud, right? The cross-browser testing, all that functional stuff. And then on top of that, we have accessibility testing, visual testing, and performance testing. And then on the end side, we have the test case management, observability, all the insights, and stuff like that. And all of those kind of flow into each other. I don't have enough time for a demo of this, but I saw one on Tuesday, and let me tell you, it was amazing. You're supposed to laugh. Okay. All right, so just gonna go through this real quickly. Don't want to bore you because we have many more amazing speakers prepared after me. So basically, you get faster scale time. How do you get faster? You have higher test coverage, but that also slows you down because with higher test coverage means there's more tech debt. You have to write more tests. You have to update more tests. You change one feature, you update 50 more test cases, right? And how do you solve that problem? We can use AI to help you write your test cases automatically. So then you get the best of both worlds where you write more tests, you have higher coverage, and you spent less time doing them. And then this is what I was mentioning, increased test coverage. And then from like the higher level side, you want the test insights. And these are like our observability tool where it kind of will take all of the tests that you've run, and our SDK will actually integrate inside your test framework and gather the test cases and not just like the commands that you sent over Selenium. So this is kind of a deeper level. So for example, if you're using WebdriverIO, then we have our JavaScript, BrowserStack JavaScript node SDK, sorry. And that'll kind of, you prepend that command on top of your WebdriverIO command, and that'll just like automatically dig in and get the data. And of course, you have fewer costs of having a single platform as a tool rather than paying 6 different contracts. You know, you simplify login, for example. We have SSO. You know, you can do LDAP. You can integrate into like one login or Okta or whatever service you're using. And you know, all of our data, we have some of the best, most strict data compliance controls. For example, I could not export this PowerPoint, so now I have to use my own laptop and share it over Zoom. We just have all these like you know, access controls. And you know, just coming up to what's new at BrowserStack, we recently launched app accessibility. So we had web accessibility before, now we're on the app side as well. It's just been launched in GA. And then we also recently acquired Bird Eats Bug and renamed it to Bug Capture. So that's another platform that will be integrated in our live, I believe. And it basically automatically captures scripts and logs and network logs and all the debug information when something goes wrong. I'm almost done, I promise. I want to talk a little bit about the BrowserStack meetup groups. So we're hosting a ton of meetups, just like this one, all across the world. I believe we're aiming to do about over 500 this year. And so we can see we are in 22 countries, 50 cities with over 10,000 members spread across the globe. And you know, we want to foster a community. We don't want to just like, you know, tell you what to do. We want to listen. We collaborate with a lot of different organizations and work together and build partnerships. Even if they're competitors, we want to work together because I think the world is just a better place that way. So, now I want to introduce Anusha Syed. She's been a quality engineer at SiriusXM. She's 5+ years of experience as a QA automation engineer and is the chapter lead for the BrowserStack New York meetup, as well as a member of the Women in Tech in New York club. Let's give up a big round of applause. All right, and then for the agenda, and this is I think my second to last slide, we have 4 amazing talkers here. We have a machine learning model testing and validation from Harry. I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce the rest of that name. I'm sorry. And then we have the evolution towards AI-driven QA by Satyam, enhancing WebdriverIO tests with Google Lighthouse by Umer, and WebdriverIO version 9. Actually, we did just release support for WebdriverIO 9 very recently with BrowserStack, so, and that's by Christian. Thank you. And you can save this for later if you just want to record. There's a Google form here you can fill out anytime during this presentation. Give us your feedback. And that will be it for me. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
And I'll be around after this event to answer any questions as well.
Do we have the first speaker?
Where he? Yeah, that's one. Yep. Let's go. Okay.
Good evening, everyone. So we're going to talk about machine learning model testing and validation. And in this context, I'm going to use testing and validation like interchangeably. Just bear with it. And before going into that, a quick introduction about me. I'm Hari. I work as a data scientist in a gaming company called Take-Two. And I did my master's in data science from Columbia University here in New York. And I create content on LinkedIn, YouTube, etc. Let's get into it. So before getting into testing and validation, how many of you here are familiar with machine learning? Okay, almost everyone. So I think then we can just get into the topic. So what is machine learning model testing? It's testing the model, but what actually is model testing? Like you train a machine learning model based on past data or historic data that you have, but how do you know whether the model is good enough? You have to before putting the model into production, you have to make sure that you test the model with the test data that you have, and make sure that it is in good state so that you can move the model into production. So basically, in simple words, that's what model testing is. So there are different types of model validation that you can do. The one that I mentioned right now, train, test, split. So here we are speaking about, I'm going to start with the first technical aspects of model validation. So first one is train, test, split, which is nothing but, let's say you have a huge 1 million data record, and you don't want to just train the model and put it into production without knowing that whether you did the right job or not. Instead, split the data into like 80%, train the model, and don't show the model, hide the rest 20% of the data, and show the model that and check whether your model is doing good. So this basic concept is train to split, and there are other ways to do this the same. I don't want to get into the technical details here. Let's go to the next one. So the question is, how do you know that your model is good enough? Like, how do you know that this is the one, I found the right person, and like a similar way, like how do you know that's a good model that you're gonna that you have built? So there are few common evaluation metrics, which is nothing but use these metrics to define your machine learning model that you have. So if it is a regression based model, you can go with mean squared error or square values, or there are other ways for classification, and there are other ways for time series and other machine learning models. And again, like I don't want to bore you with the technical details here. So that's it, right? Like this is what model testing it, right? Like when I was learning machine learning, I went on YouTube and searched for model testing or validation. And when I learned machine learning, I thought that's it. Like this is what machine learning testing is. So if that's the case, let's do an exercise. So let's say so this is a simple exercise. I have a data, I plot it on XY axis, and let's say this is all the points that I have. So if you know machine learning, so machine learning model is nothing but finding the right fit curve based on the data that you have, which is very simple as like y equal to mx plus c, which is the basic linear regression model. Let's just say this line represents the model that you built, and let's assume that I didn't use any machine learning to do this, but yeah, I did it on PPT, so let's just assume that this is the best fit line. So how many of you really think this is right, or how many of you think this is right?
Linear regression system.
Yeah. So do you think this model is the right one?
Not the perfect, but
Okay. So
if it's a linear regression.
yeah, I mean, technically this is right. So why do you think like this might not be the right model?
It's quote unquote right but wrong.
So does any of you think that there's something wrong with this? May I know why?
There's no labeling.
Yeah, exactly. So it is true that basically there is no context behind this. Technically, the machine learning model is right, but the problem with this is, let's say now I introduce context to the model. Let's see what's gonna change. So now let me introduce, like, let's say x-axis is discount and y-axis is sales, and let's say the model that I have, the line is the model. That doesn't make sense, right? As discount increases, how come sales can go down? Then what's the point of having a discount? So you see, like, a context can entirely change a technically right model to completely wrong one, and this is like going in the wrong direction. And what's the reason for that? These two culprit points that we see in the model. So I want to speak about ML is more than just numbers. It's not just testing based on the evaluation metrics or like the technical details that you find. So it also involves like business and domain experts in it. So this is the shocking truth which I realized after joining a company as a data scientist. When I did all my personal projects, I just go with doing a lot of technical stuff. I use all the evaluation metrics and I just use them to test the model, and I think that that's a good model, and I'll put it in production. After joining my work as a data scientist, then I realized people don't care about the technical stuff that you show. The first priority one is going to be about the business impact of the machine learning models that you give. So that's why contribution of business domain experts is going to play an important role. And how is it going to play a role? Like when you do feature engineering, which is nothing but preparing the data, the necessary data that is going to be required for the machine learning model, you identify relevant features and relationships, not just through the technical stuff. You also go and sit with a business expert and ask that person to give some opinion on top of your technical findings that you have. And you do the same when you do data pre-processing, spotting domain-specific anomalies. So that's what the example that I showed before. If you talk to a salesperson, he would have said that we gave 90% discount, so we expected we might have more sales. We didn't expect that it will go the other way around. So that's why. And also again, when you are interpreting the model, you should improve, you should make sure that the actionability of the model output is aligned with the business outcomes that you are expecting. So I want to end this presentation with best practices to follow when you are building any machine learning models. Before moving the model into production, first, make sure to establish clear communication channel between the ML folks who are working on and also the domain folks who are going to consume the machine learning models. And a lot of us, when we are building a pipeline, we generally do all the data cleaning, data pre-processing. Everyone emphasizes the importance of data cleaning and data pre-processing, choosing the right model. They go math behind it and everything. But don't just stop there. Also include validation pipeline when you are building a complete end-to-end machine learning pipeline in your projects. And finally, once the pipeline is ready, make sure to regularly review and update the validation criteria you have. For example, as discount increases, sales should increase ideally. Like that's what you expect it to be. That's why you're doing discounts. So make sure that whatever you see is in the right direction. And that's how you build a robust machine learning pipeline for your projects. And yeah, that's it. Thank you. Thanks for your time. Yeah, like if you guys have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Can you go back to the previous slide? Yeah, so, okay, I'm not into ML that much, so where in this flowchart would things like accuracy and precision come in?
Yeah, so that you are speaking about the technical details, right? That's the first half of the presentation that I showed. Okay. So accuracy and details will give you the technical, whether the model is technically best model or not. But that doesn't mean that it is good enough for the business to consume.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Again, not a machine learning developer here.
Sure.
So, but when you say validation pipeline, when you're building a validation pipeline, the idea is that you're supposed to be knowing already, right, whether your prediction is already right. So more like a testing training ratio, you have 80 to 10, right? So 80 to 20 ratio, whatever is that. So what is the use case of in pipeline, when you say pipeline, how are you validating the data in here?
So I'll tell you why validation pipeline is necessary in the first place. So when you do the 80-20 split and you do the testing, right, you do that when you are building the model for the first time. Once you move the model into production, you don't do the split at all. Like in the pipeline, it's going to be trained on the entire data, because that's what you don't want to miss out on any data, right? You're not going to waste 20% of the data. After testing it on a notebook, you're going to move it into a pipeline. In that pipeline, you're not going to test using the 20% data. And let's say you never done 90% discount. Suddenly, your sales team comes to you and says like, I'm going to do like live 90%. And what if the model is going to predict in the opposite direction, and you want to give the right one for the salespeople to consume the outputs that you're going to give, right? As a ML engineer or data scientist. So that's why the importance of validation pipeline. So it is to make sure that the direction is right, whether the model is predicting the right direction or not.
Like identifying the false positive into the real data.
Yeah, exactly.
No, that's good.
Any other questions?
So how? Sorry.
Yeah, you asked.
Sorry. So how frequently do you get these false positive in your experience so far in the production pipelines?
So whenever you do something which is not expected, you receive that. So I work in corporate analytics. So I work in sales analytics, my primary work. So that's why I included that example. So what it does is, let's say now Thanksgiving is coming. Most probably businesses don't do heavy discounts, but unless there is some Thanksgiving, Christmas or something, let's say you've never done something which is already in the training data, you don't know, like business can do anything, right? Crazily, like a special marketing campaign. And if they are gonna do that, that's a special occasion. In that case, there is a possibility that machine learning can go wrong, because machine learning is nothing but using the history to predict what's gonna happen in the future. But what if the history has not seen what's gonna happen in the future? So that's when you have to make sure that at least the direction of the model is right.
Right.
Yeah.
One last thing then. Do you have any AI in the roadmap to implement?
I mean, we have a lot of, like, we use AI a lot, but AI is not really good in numerical stuff. So when you want to predict like numbers, obviously the recent one, if you have seen the strawberry one. So if you go to an AI and ask how many R's on strawberry, a simple Python code can give an answer for that, but ChatGPT couldn't give an answer. So I feel like AI is still not there for the numerical stuff. It's really great in text, image, or everything else, but for the numerical stuff, I think it's better to go with more traditional machine learning models.
Thank you.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We just powered through. We have a lot of talks to go through today, and please welcome on stage. Let me just update. And with that, take it away. Thank you.
I'm not sure why it's not coming up over there.
Perfect. Yeah.
Good evening, everyone, or should I say like good future, because by the end of this topic, you're probably wondering like where exactly we are heading. And that was in fact a very good last question, because you're asking that how AI is going to matter in the world of qualitative assurance. And probably by the end of this presentation, we will have the answer for that particular question. So moving ahead, so my topic for today is the evolution towards the artificial intelligence driven quality assurance. So we'll just go by a quick introduction here. So okay, I have to tap in, like first time Mac user. So a quick introduction. So my name is Satyam here. I work as a senior quant at Exelon. So by the daytime, that's my day job, like to fix the bugs and look for the enhancement and everything. But by the night time, like mostly I wonder like how we can go ahead and improve the quality assurance. And the spoiler alert here is the answer is AI. Because how the AI is modernizing nowadays, like we can go ahead and integrate like AI into everything nowadays. It's very simple. The goal of my presentation is going to be like to show how AI and the data science are reshaping the quality assurance, and to highlight how modern QA practices are relevant for improving the testing speed, accuracy, and what are the career advancements. So what's in it for you as well? Like at the end of this presentation, I'm going to answer like why exactly you guys are here and what's in it for you as well. So moving ahead, let's start with very basics. Like what exactly is quality assurance? So you might be wondering like what a QA does in their daytime job. So basically, if we go by the definition, like QA is a systematic process that ensures software meets specified quality standards before release. It focuses on preventing defects rather than just detecting them. Pretty boring, right? So if we just not go by the definition, we can say that the job of QA is really simple. They just have to predict that, they just have to find the bugs before it goes into the production. That's it. It's really simple. So the key aspects for this presentation is going to be like how they does the planning, how they do the executions, and how they do the reporting for all these bugs before they launch the final website into the production. And of course, their goal is to deliver the high quality software with the minimal bugs. Moving ahead. Now the important part of this presentation is AI-driven QA. So why it actually matters, like what is wrong with the traditional QA? Like it was working fine, everything was absolutely fine before as well. So why do we need the AI here? And the answer is predictive analytics and and it provides the scalability and efficiency which only AI does. So if we look into the predictive analytics, like if we just talk about the traditional QA, so as of now they have to do all the tasks manually. Let's say they have thousands of test cases. They don't have the option to scale it, to do the predictive analytics and to do other stuff. So AI comes into the picture. So how it actually works is, it leverages the historical data and predicts bugs before it appears into the production. It focuses into the high risk areas and thus optimizes the resources as well. Looking into the scalability and the efficiency, so it also enables automated testing at very scale. Like as of now, like you don't have to do every test manually. You can, like AI can go ahead and predict like you are missing this edge case, so you should probably focus on this one. This test is more critical. Like if I remember, like 5 to 6 years ago, like we used to mark the test like vulnerabilities as critical, high, low, etc. Now, depending on those test cases, like depending on those data, AI can actually go and tell us like what exactly we should focus on, where exactly we should focus on first. Moving ahead with this, the next on the agenda is the traditional QA and what are the struggles with it. The first one is the manual testing. So as we all know, like manual testing is pretty boring and it is prone to errors as well, because no matter how advanced we think humans are, like probably we end up missing few of the test cases only. And as a matter of fact, we can see that there are 40% defects in the traditional QA, and the answer is of course like it's because of us humans. Also looking ahead, like the advancement over the manual testing is automated testing, but there are some problems with the automated testing as well. Let's say there is some kind of a change in the UI or the software. So the test scripts which we have already, it's not going to adjust automatically. We will have to do something. So we'll have to probably just go ahead, QA have to do the task for hours or days to automatically update the test scripts and then adjust according to the new UI and the new softwares which they are maintaining. The other problem with the traditional QA is the maintenance. So like the test scripts, like if it is breaking up with the UI every time, then we will have to maintain those test scripts accordingly. So that is also one of the challenges which the traditional QI has. So what is the solution for that? And that's exactly where the AI comes into the picture. So if you look into this graphs and the automation trends, so these are the things where AI exactly helps us. So if you look into like AI analytics driven QA, headless automation, API and script, multi-tier automation, and a lot more. So these are exactly where we can use the AI, and that is why there is a rise of AI in QA field as well. Now we are going to cover the five very integral part of AI, like how we are leveraging these things. The first one is how AI exactly helps us is like intelligent test case generation. It also helps us in self-healing test scripts. It also helps us in predictive defect prevention. Also, now if you are not that much technical, you might be wondering that, okay, I am not a coder, like I don't have any exact idea. So now they have also integrated NLP. So you just have to write in simple English and it will generate a code for you, like exactly like ChatGPT. You don't have to have that kind of understanding, like exactly how to code, how to generate the test scripts and everything. And the last one here is the optimized test execution. So starting with the first one here, which is the intelligent test case generation. So a day in the life of a QA, like sometimes they wonder like, okay, like no matter how hard they are working, they are missing the edge cases. So if any of the QAs here, they might be wondering the same thing, like, okay, no matter how hard I think about it, I tend to miss some of the edge cases. So how I can go ahead and resolve? The AI is the answer, because it is trained on the historical data, so that they generate the automatic test cases, so that they don't miss any kind of a test cases. And as a matter of fact, like there is a 30% increase in the test coverage with the AI generated test cases now. And it also covers a lot of edge cases and the other things as well. Next on the agenda here for us is self-healing test scripts. So as I already said, like if the UI is drastically changing, like a QA must have to go and update the test scripts accordingly, because the scripts are not going to change automatically with the new UI. So that there is also some kind of load on the QA. So that's not with the AI. They have that self-healing based on the predictive modeling, because it is trained on the data set. So if the UI is changing, it also changes automatically. And as a result of which, there is around 40% reduction in the test maintenance. Moving ahead. Now this is interesting part. So let's say like how we can use the natural language processing in the test design. So if someone is not from the coding background, and if we are looking for team collaboration as well, and if we want, okay, so everyone should go ahead and work on this particular field. So there exactly NLP for test design comes into the picture. So as a NLP, it enables non-technical stakeholders as well to generate the test cases. Let's say if you have designed a website and you want to check if that particular login button is working or not, you just have to write the prompt over there, okay, go check that login button if it's working or not, and it will generate a code for you and the test cases as well, and you can just go ahead and implement. So you have one more test cases and also one of the like edge cases, because sometimes we often miss that login checking button sometimes. So as a result, like we saw a 25% increase in like reduction in the time spent creating the test cases, and also a significant increase in the team collaboration. So a non-technical person can also now go ahead and write the codes themselves. The next one is predictive defect prevention. So it actually AI analyzes the historical testing data to predict what could be the potential defect, and it just gives you a potential, like, okay, I have seen this kind of bug before as well, and this might be an issue in the future as well. So you should go ahead and better fix that bug beforehand, before moving everything to the production. So like as a result, like here, like there is almost 50% decrease in critical defects reaching the production, and that's how we are utilizing the AI. The next one here is, the last one is optimized test execution. So let's say we have a website over here, and there are 1,000 test cases with that website. So now you don't have to go ahead and trigger all the test cases manually. It just goes and triggers, and if like also, let's say like earlier we used to mark test cases as critical, higher, lower, something like that. So what we used to do is like, let's go step by step sequentially, so that what we tend to do is like, okay, if the lower one is done, then we'll go to mid, then we'll move to critical. Now that shouldn't how it should be. That's not exactly how it should be. So what we can do here is like AI analyzes what are the critical test cases first, and then it executes those test cases first, and then move ahead. So that in case if anything is missing as well in the test cases, so it would be very lower like vulnerability test cases, not the critical ones. Next here is, what are the challenges? So no matter like what anyone is saying to you, like, okay, we can go ahead and leverage AI, we can integrate, like it is prone to errors. We might have heard that, okay, like yeah, like we can go ahead and integrate the AI everywhere, but the thing is, it actually depends upon the data set. So you might have heard the saying that the garbage in, garbage out. So all these test cases and everything depends on the data, and in fact, like there are 25% of the AI models that inherit biases, which depends on the data set. So if the data is really clean, updated, and useful, then only we can go ahead and use that AI. Otherwise, it will show the biases as well. It has a very high data dependency, and the poor data can reduce the overall effectiveness of our test cases as well. And eventually, like we all know that the human expertise is still required, so we are still the bosses here, not the AI. Now, these are the key AI and the data science tools in the quality assurance field, which is the machine learning, NLP for test generation, which I've covered already, predictive analysis. But the important part here is the quantitative impact. So what we have observed here is by implementing all these AI tools, the average testing cycle has been decreased by almost 40%, which is a significant achievement, which we have achieved from AI. And these are just a few of the tools for your reference, which you can go ahead and use in the future. Moving ahead, like data-driven efficiency in the test automation. So like here, the first one is data-driven coverage. So it uses the clustering technique, which is it provides around 25% of under-tested areas applications are now covered. So now we are covering all the edge cases and not missing anything as such. Then the second one is AI-powered risk-based testing. So AI evaluates code risk and automates high-priority tested, which we have covered, and thus it saves our testing time by almost 20%. And the last one here is the real-time adjustment. So if the UI is changing or anything is changing, so AI just adjusts automatically, or we can say it just fixes automatically, and then we can go ahead and cover all the edge cases as well for the new changes in the UI. Now the important part is why it matters to us, like what's in it for us. So the first one is the career relevance here. So if you are someone from the QA background, so we can say that young professionals who are proficient in AI and QA are more likely to get the senior roles in the field right now. Apart from that, like 60%, in fact, more than 60% of companies are planning to integrate the AI technologies in the future just to reduce the manual workload and don't miss any of the future test cases or anything as such, just to improve themselves. And for you, the quantify your impact, learning these skills can save companies around $1 million annually, and that is just a rough number. As of now, it depends upon the size of the company, so it could be much more than that as well. Now, how the future of QA looks like is what next is continuous testing with AI. So around 70% of the QA processes will be fully automated in the future, in the next decade. And the second one is AI-driven DevOps. So AI will integrate fully into the DevOps as well. We can say that probably in the next decade, we will be using AI in all kind of DevOps projects. And in for a personal benefit, there is a career growth in AI as well. So 80% of the QA professionals with AI skill expect salary increases as a demand of automation and expertise. And if you don't believe me, you can ask Anusha as well, our host. So that's the thing. And just to conclude, how it works, what we have covered already is the predictive analytics, AI and data scientists is not just an optional tool nowadays. You have to use it because that is reshaping the future. And if you look into the scalability and the efficiency, so I would suggest that we should go ahead and start integrating it as soon as possible, because just to future-proof your career, because future waits for no one. So that's my time, guys. Thank you so much. And if you have any questions.
Hi. Actually, I've got two questions, if that's okay. In your presentation, you cited some statistics about test maintenance time being reduced 40%. Did that come from specific white papers, or is that just based on your own observation?
Actually, it's a combination of both the things. I have done some of the research myself. I have read some research papers as well. I had a communication with a lot of colleagues as well, and who are already working in that field. So that's how it's I have used approximately everywhere. So that's a rough number. So just for your reference.
Gotcha. And can you speak to any models you specifically worked with? Have you found OpenAI to be better than Anthropic or anything like that? Have you actually integrated any specific model in your workflows?
To be really honest with you, I work as a quant developer, so I don't use it personally. But yeah, past when I was working at CS, I worked there for 3 years. So at that time, we were using a lot of models, and we were doing a lot of DevOps operations. So at that time, most of things were manual because I left that organization in 2022, and that was the rise of AI at that time. But everyone was just curious, like how we can go ahead and use these things, because there were a lot of manual testing, automation testing. People were using Selenium, so now they have extensions available like as Helium or something like that. So you can just use that. So those were my recommendations for tools.
Awesome. Thank you.
I hope I answered your question.
So a couple of questions. The first one, you mentioned about the use of NLP, so you can actually generate code. Now I remember back in the day, a lot of like Selenium had the IDEs on the side that would generate code for you, and 90% of the time it really wasn't the best code. So what is the quality of the code being generated by the NLP with this? Is it stuff that requires a lot of refactoring afterwards, or is it just enough that it'll work to execute a few times?
So to be honest with you, like it actually depends upon the prompt engineering. So if you are giving the prompt correctly, if you are giving all the information, I think most of the time it will generate the really good code, and you can use that. I think most of the people used like ChatGPT here, and earlier when it started, at that time it used to give a lot of wrong information, but nowadays it's improving day by day. So now the same thing goes with NLP for the test generations as well. If you're giving all the prompts correctly, if you're including everything what has to be there, like if you're giving the designs and everything, it will generate the right test cases for you.
Well, I was speaking more to the code, because therefore it could write the automated test as well.
I think of course, it will write the automated test for you as well.
But how much of that has to be refactored? Is there any statistics on how much of that could have refactored by the team afterwards, or is it just good out the box and no refactor is necessary?
If it is a simple test case, I don't think any refactors would be necessary. But if it is like really complicated, probably you'll have to add more coding knowledge to it, or something like just tweak it here and there, and it will go fine for you.
Second question is, you talked about having the test data and having the grab on the data for it. How would you suggest a project that's greenfield, has no test data, just coming from scratch, leveraging a tool like this when there's no data to leverage?
That is kind of a tricky question. So actually, like everything, like the AI actually depends on the data. So if we don't have any data, like probably it won't generate the most useful test cases for us. But actually, like there is a lot of similarities we can say. Like the project might be new for you, but not for the AI. Like it might have seen a lot of similar test cases in the past. So if you just go give the prompt correctly, it may give you something, but you'll have to like adjust it a lot. So that would be my answer, but like I'm not 100% sure like if it would be really like new for the AI as well, or it might have seen in the past, but it actually depends.
One more question. Jason Arbin and Tariq King and all these other big names in testing and UI have preached a lot about the immediate need right now for QA isn't necessarily in leveraging and using ChatGPT, but actually testing it that it works. What has your research said around that?
That is absolutely correct. Like as of now, like it is still in the development phase, so they have to improve it significantly, because in the future, like over a decade, I can say that okay, probably it will be like 90% efficient, but as of now, like they have to be more focused on the research aspect rather than just using ChatGPT for generating the test cases. Because as I mentioned in one of the slides, like garbage in, garbage out. So it depends entirely on the data. So if the data set is not correct, if the prompts are not correct, then it will just give some kind of code, but that is not that's not surely gonna work. So it depends.
Thank you.
Yes. Do we have any more questions?
All right. Glad to see you guys are all in.
So you mentioned a couple of tools on one of your slides. Have you used any of them?
Like I have used Selenium for sure. I have used WebDrivers for sure.
No. I mean AI. Is AI.
Sorry?
Like on one slide, the Apple tools.
Apple tool, yeah.
Oh.
Apple tools, testing.
Qtest, some other tools.
Oh, I got it. Yeah, I've used the test.ai myself. I've used the Qtest myself. Like apart from most of tools, I've just studied. I like watched some of the YouTube videos on that, like how we can go ahead and use it. Then I've used few of the other extensions for Selenium, but not exactly that one.
Yeah. Is there any tool that you can recommend based on your experience?
For sure, like Qtest is really good tool, and apart from that, nowadays, just for your reference, so like all the things, like I've covered 5 points over there. So I think Testim and Functionalize are really good tools because it covers all like 4 out of 5 of them. So I would recommend those 2 tools for sure. Apart from that, there are few like specialized tool as well, like Selenium with AI extensions. So that depends, and then the Cypress with Gauge, which works for NLP. So they have their own specifications. But if you want like all-in-one tool kind of a thing, then I would definitely recommend Testim and Functionalize.
Okay, thank you.
I just have one question. So you mentioned that I think in one of the initial slides you mentioned that when the UI changes, it automatically adapts. So is that just minor changes, just layout changes that you're referring to, or does it go into the selector and figure out where the component has moved by itself?
So it is actually gonna like figure out where the component has moved itself, and also if you are like adding more buttons to, let's say there was only a login button earlier, now you're adding that logout feature as well, sign up, sign in feature as well. So it is gonna automatically detect those things, and it will generate the test cases automatically. So that is a really good thing. And if you are also looking for the tool which might be useful there, so that would be C-Lights.
Sorry,
C-Lights. C-Lights, there is one tool, like I just watch a video, so probably, yeah, like someone might be having more understanding on it, but yeah, that is one of the tools. Yes.
Will it follow the page object model? Like if you're like just starting out, so page object model.
No, I'm sorry, I don't have much idea on that.
Okay.
Do you have?
I can answer your question for page object model. Like, what are you asking?
Like when like let's say you're starting out like a brand new framework, right? Or a browser, like will it follow the page object model when you're doing the test, right? So will it do that? That's my question. Like whatever.
So it's like, how is it helpful?
No, like will it follow that model?
I think yes.
I think if you prompt
engineer
to
Because page object model is the same thing, right? You're creating different classes and then you're calling one class into another and by creating different functions. So it's like you're just creating a object like repository in one class that will be calling variable in different classes. So I think yes, as you mentioned, like the prompt engineering, it will work with the POM model, and Selenium works best with page object model. Like I have personally used that in C# and in Java in any language. It is very compatible.
Okay, thank you.
All right, if there are no other questions, we'll short break. Please grab some pizza, some brownies. We also have coffee over here and soda. There's some goodies in the front desk. And then once you're ready, feel free to move a little bit closer to the front. I mean, we've got a big room, and you know, most of these chairs are empty, so.
Just two comments on these questions.
Sure, yeah, I'm sure, yeah.
I don't want to take notes.
It's fine.
No, it's just one question. One question that gentleman asked. And this guy has. Maybe we can begin with that.
Sure.
Good presentation.
Definitely the best slides. Turn these off for now, and then we can. 5 minutes or 10 minutes? How many minutes?
Let's do a quick 10 minutes.
So maybe 7, 10?
Yeah, okay.
We have the room until 9?
I think so.
Oh, some good questions. I'm glad you engaged.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Meetup with Prasad. Nice to meet you. I actually played NSF there. want to check if someone has
Sweet. I mean, we can already bring you.
So how do you go up and back and forth?
Like this.
the next session. I'm sure you're all enjoying these very great industry conversations, but maybe we can save them for after the next session. I have got food in my mouth still. Yeah, you can all just like come up maybe one, maybe two rows if you want. Let's give a round of applause for Umer. Thank you.
Thank you very much, BrowserStack and Christian, for inviting me over here, right from Toronto. I'm just waiting for these guys to just sit down.
Take better pictures this way.
For sure. Maybe start taking some notes because you might have some more questions for me. Okay, thank you very much, everybody, to make this a very learning session for everybody. Myself, Umer Khan, and I am working as an automation architect for Thomson Reuters. I'm from Toronto. This presentation is primarily talking about WebdriverIO and integrating Lighthouse. It's a Google Lighthouse tool that is available in the form of different, like you can use it as a plugin, or you can use it as a library NPM package. You can use it as an extension, stuff like that. So there are many different aspects that you can use Google Lighthouse. This particularly, the two takeaways we want from this particular presentation, especially from my perspective, is that manual engineers, manual QA, to add some aspect of performance engineering into their toolpath, so that even if they are not automating, or if they are only interacting with web application or mobile web application, they can evaluate the application under test from performance numbers perspective, right? So that's the one advantage, that's the one objective that we want to achieve out of this talk. The second one is that how we, as SDATs or automation engineers, we can leverage Google Lighthouse along with WebdriverIO to take full advantage of performance engineering as much possible. So one distinction before I even open up the presentation is that Google Lighthouse is not the load testing tool. It is auditing tool, just to be on the same page. So agenda is basically that why performance matters, right? And what are the business use cases that we are going to have for Google Lighthouse, how Lighthouse works, what is the architecture look like, and how WebdriverIO enable us to perform these kind of automation for integrating Lighthouse, right? And how we can integrate WebdriverIO along with Lighthouse node npm or package or module into our CI/CD as well, right? So basically, WebdriverIO gives us as a service Lighthouse integration. It was previously Chrome DevTools service. Now it has been renamed with Lighthouse. So we are going to talk about that. But I will very quickly go through for first three agenda points. So this particular numbers I have taken from one of the Google's presentation back in 2019, right? So why performance matters? Because the performance is very important, very critical for any user experience, right? And it might have happened with almost everybody. I can say that for any application or any web app that you have tried for very first time and it does not work or it doesn't load, there is a very, very good chance that you are not going to reopen it in foreseeable future. So that's the 75% it takes, like if the speed it takes to load a page, so 75% there is an impact on that if the website is not being properly loaded. And this slide is also from the same presentation, that bouncing rate of the users increases from 1 to 3 second response time on any web application is a 32%. And these statistics we are talking about back in 2019. So latest statistics could have been like improved, but I don't have those. But this gives us very good understanding that how the bouncing rate affects and how the web performance or page loading on any device, either that is mobile or that is desktop application user experience, it has direct correlation with that. So this is very quick understanding of taxonomy of speed tooling. We don't have to go into the details, but there are generally, if you look at the legends, there are lab data, field data, lab and field data both, right? So generally speaking, Lighthouse engine is mainly in the lab data, right? But it has some integrations like PageSpeed Lite API, APIs, Insight API, PageSpeed Insights. These provide both together, but we are only focusing on the Lighthouse engine for now. As I mentioned, that Lighthouse is auditing tool. It is not a load or performance tool, right? So it does not mimic like thousands of users or virtual users, or it does not generate a load to get the numbers. It just emulates some of these things, get the numbers and compare those numbers with the available archives data in HTML. So basically Lighthouse is auditing tool giving you different areas on audits, right, for different aspects. Those are performance, which are, we can call it in numbers, where performance mainly talking about these 5 metrics: speed index, first content painful, just contentful paint, total blocking time, cumulative layout shift. And these have their own science, that how, I'm not going to be discussing in detail how does it work, but most important thing for us to understand is the speed index, right? Generally, speed index is one of the things which is key to the performance metrics, right? But these 5 are the metrics that Lighthouse provide us under performance category. Then we have accessibility audits, best practices, SEO for progressive web app application as well. So this is just a very quick understanding of that these 5 metrics are under performance and how they are being reported by the Google Lighthouse reporting report itself. We call it LHS, Lighthouse report, LHR, Lighthouse report. But this we will come back to in this one. But this important thing is that these numbers, it has a proper science or proper algorithm behind the scene to reach on these numbers. These numbers are not the raw numbers, as I will explain to you that what does it mean. So this is the Lighthouse architecture. So if you start from here, you will see that the Lighthouse is taking the configuration file, whatever you have configured, you have more control in configuration in the node module as compared to any other extension or any other way. Then it goes into the different runners. These are different flows Lighthouse library provides, and it runs against the Chrome Web Protocol and emulates with the web browser, right? It gets some data, and this data, or you call it artifacts, these artifacts are basically raw data. These are not the numbers that we saw here. Once these artifacts are generated, the numbers are, these audits are run, and these numbers that we see in previous screen, these are calculated based upon the HTML archives, right? So there are some statistical processing behind the scene, number crunching, and then they reach out to 0 to 100 scale for every metric they come on that. So these should not be considered as a raw data. Raw data is not shown to you directly. So if you want to just see that how the different metrics should be working, or what is your target SLA on any page. So there is a calculator from Lighthouse side, and you can go over there, you can move these numbers, milliseconds, whatever it is, and you can reach out to required number, that this is the number, target number that we want to achieve. But this is just a calculator stuff, right? So so this is part of the Lighthouse, a very quick background that what Lighthouse enables us, what we achieve, how it works, right? Now I'm going to be discussing two things, two ways that we can use Lighthouse features within WebdriverIO ecosystem. This Lighthouse service, there is one way the service is exposed by WebdriverIO that you can use, and these are the methods that are available via using WebdriverIO Lighthouse service as in, right? So for those people who have used WebdriverIO, you might have already noticed that there are various services out of the box available. You go into WebdriverIO conf file and you can just put this service there, and then these methods will be available for you to audit or anything for that page. This is just a code snippet and the configuration as far as service is concerned, that we saw that if you configure this service with Lighthouse, you enable to have these kind of analysis on your page, right? So this is just a typical Mocha test where we have enabled the Lighthouse service through WebdriverIO configuration file, and we can call get performance score, get metrics, get diagnostics, whatever the functions available, and it will give you JSON object, and from that JSON object you can put the assertions in, right? So for example, speed index, this get matrix is going to be returning a matrix object with the JSON object, and this will have a speed index part of it, right? So you can pick up that value and you can compare whatever the you want to compare against. Generally they call it 90 plus speed index is considered good. So this is how the get matrix response look like. So these are different values that whenever you call get matrix call, you will see these load time, interactive, LCP, all these things, and then you can just use it as for your analysis or assertions within your test. So this is for get diagnostics. This is how the structure of the response object looks like. So the other thing that is very important for performance engineering, like for example, if you are testing an application that is supported to be rendered on the desktop browsers or on a mobile devices, you can emulate that, and that facility is available by using the form factor, right? Mobile and form factor desktop, and these are different values that you can change in terms of getting the reports, and that is the beauty of this tool, that when integrated you can use existing tests in WebdriverIO and use them to different profiles and generate the report or even compare them if you properly implement it. For example, Lighthouse CI is another tool that you can set it up in your CI/CD environment where you can build the whole statistics and beautiful dashboards out of that. But this is just an example that you can emulate your experience of web performance for different profiles from different devices, different form factors. So far we have seen that WebdriverIO provides us this service, but that service gives us a list of features in the form of functions. But what if I want to see throughout my user journey, I log in, I go to my home page, I do something, I log out. What is my experience look like? Then the built-in WebdriverIO Lighthouse service is not going to provide you this information, right? So you will have to implement on every single page, every single statement, how you want to do it, right? But Lighthouse provides a node module, which is actually a library, right? That you can integrate it with WebdriverIO scripts out of the box. You don't have to do extra work to get those things done, but Lighthouse provides you flows. There are three kinds of flows, what we call navigation, time span, and snapshot, right? That enables you to record the whole performance thing from different perspective into your user journeys. And that is the real power of Lighthouse that you can use with your existing WebdriverIO test itself. There are two ways. You can use get puppeteer interface directly, and you can interact with the browser by using Puppeteer. And this get Puppeteer interface is given by the browser object, which is WebdriverIO object, right? So this is one method that can give you enough control of interaction with the browser, right? But this is not the only way. If you are not fully comfortable with Puppeteer or Puppeteer API, you can directly use your WebdriverIO commands, and you can just continue with that. It won't have any difference on that. It's just like by default, if you go into GitHub on Lighthouse library, you will see that Puppeteer they by default imported because they are not by default integrating with WebdriverIO. But WebdriverIO gives you Puppeteer interface, and you can use Puppeteer commands to interact with the browser. This is one option. And this is how you import it and you can use it. So this is what I just explained, that by default service on the WebdriverIO only gives you a handful of things, and those are pretty much in the form of JSON objects, not the report, nothing, doesn't cover the whole user experience and cannot generate the report that we are going to look into that. So Lighthouse NPM module is going to give you this power by using flows. So you can start the flow, and Lighthouse will continue to gather all the statistics, whatever it is, and whatever the flow you are using or instructing at. Irrespective you are using Puppeteer or WebdriverIO commands, it is going to generate those statistics for you, and you can just report, generate an HTML report, and report is very beautiful. You don't have to do any extra crunching or any extra code for writing that report thing. So Lighthouse flows, as I mentioned earlier, there are three modes. One is navigation, time span, and snapshot, and all three of them have their own pros and cons, right, or their limitations. Navigation is the one which is going to give you whole performance spectrum for you. Time span is mainly giving you some cumulative layout shift and other those things. And snapshot is going to give you for accessibility and other UI elements at a static page site. So this is the code snippet that is using WebdriverIO and Puppeteer interface. So in this example, what we are doing is that we are using WebdriverIO framework, launch the browser through WebdriverIO, but we do not use WebdriverIO commands to interact with the browser. We use Puppeteer interface to interact with the browser, right? This is one way of interacting with the browser and Lighthouse itself, right? And if you take and notice that I'm starting flow here, which means that I am instructing the WebdriverIO engine to start, and this Lighthouse library that start the flow and doing all this, gather all these numbers for me, and then generate a report for me out of it, right? So this is the reason that I did not properly define the page object and other things, because I wanted to ensure that these things are immediately available for you to look into that, why it is like that. So by the end, we just created a report, and this is HTML report. And all this code is available into GitHub. You can go and look into that, including the reports itself. This, if you might have noticed that this is again behind the authenticated pages, where the user journeys actually lie, right, other than login, right? So for login, you can call it in any interface, for example, you can call it in the extension or something like that. It is only going to be covering the main page only. But what if you want to gather the whole end-to-end experience and get the metrics around it? Then you will have to code it like using flows, so that your report covers every single thing, right? So this is the beauty, that you can combine WebdriverIO powers and then the Lighthouse powers collectively to generate the performance reports. This is how the Lighthouse flow report looks like, right? And if you look into this one, it's a page load, and page load has performance numbers. But whenever we say snapshot, right, it does not have performance numbers, because snapshot is not meant for that. So any page load or transitions should be covered under the page load flow. So that is why they have given you 3 flows. One is the navigation, the other one is time span, the third one is the snapshot one, right? And this is how the report looks like. I didn't do anything, it's just one statement, right? This statement is generating this whole thing. Although I can take the credit, I did that, but that's not the case, right? So, and more importantly, that if you look into that, is called emulated Moto G power, right? So this is the default mode of Lighthouse. Whenever you are going to run without explicit profile, it is going to be using mobile profile by default. And this is again the desktop configuration. The only difference is that in the previous code, we didn't provide any configurations here, right? So start flow. But here, if you see, I'm starting the flow, but I'm saying that desktop configuration, use a desktop configuration. And by default, whatever the default desktop configuration, it will use that and it will generate the report. And here you can see that emulated desktop, right? So that's the difference between these two. Now, the question is that what if you already have a lot of WebdriverIO tests and you don't want to play with the Puppeteer? So there's no problem with that, and it is actually very easy. In this particular case, you see that I am using the default login page pattern and calling open, which underneath is using WebdriverIO commands, right? Locators, execution, interaction. I am not doing anything. Only thing I am saying that, okay, I am injecting Lighthouse flows into my test, right? So for example, here I am saying that start my flow, whatever the WebdriverIO is doing here, let it do it, and then do the snapshot. Once a login page is loaded, do the snapshot analysis, and I am giving the name login page because I want to be sure enough when my report generates, it is meaningful to evaluate, because we don't want to generate the report just for the sake of that, right? We want to evaluate the numbers as well. And in that case, if the steps are not meaningful, we won't be able to evaluate that what step it was talking about. Although you can go into details, but it's better to have the proper naming conventions. And we continue like that. We let our WebdriverIO commands run, execute, or interact with the browser. We don't do anything there. We just inject the flows, Lighthouse flows into it, and at the end, we generate the report. So these are the GitHub open repository, public repository, and this is the reports are available. All the code snippet is here. You can go and have a look at that. And these are some of the references. Thank you very much. That's all from my end. Questions?
Yeah, I just have a comment on the impact of performance. I remember saw a phrase where someone said, right now there's probably like 50% of the population on the internet. In the next 50 years, we expect the other half to come to the internet, but they don't have fancy MacBooks like we do. They live in like developed countries where they use feature phones, and feature phones are like iPhone, but very basic, with not a lot of CPU, cheap to produce and cheap to give out to people, to give them access to the internet. And if you have an application and you want to reach these people, you might want to consider building an application and testing your application for performance as well. Just one comment.
Yeah, no, I think so. This is very much relevant, and this is where the device emulation works, right? So, for example, you can play around with the CPU, you can play around with the throttling, you can play around with the different profiles, and these informations are already available. You can go and emulate that, and that is why it's called lab data, because you can emulate it. And once you include it, you can have this CI/CD implemented with different profiles, and then you can do the number crunching and see how does it work before you actually go into production. Thanks.
I swear this is not a plant and an actual honest question, but in regards to emulation, how does Lighthouse compare to services like BrowserStack?
Right. So if you look into that, I would give you an analogy on this one, right? So for example, you might have observed that Lighthouse do the accessibility audits. Lighthouse doesn't do everything on its own. It uses DQ Xcode library uses. And I'm sure that BrowserStack is also implementing that. So I hope that answers your question.
I can add one comment to that, if I'm allowed.
Sure, please go ahead.
Well, that's why I asked the question, because BrowserStack people here.
We actually do provide Lighthouse reports inside BrowserStack. So there's an option if you have our SDK, you just add performance report true, and then you add some configuration if you want, and then your testing will include Lighthouse reports along the way. Those are one of the just many features that we have. You can also run accessibility reports on that as well. You also just open up the SDK and say accessibility equals true. Again, you can add some configurations there. We also have like the manual testing where it's like a live page scanner. We have like a scheduled reports, and then we can also integrate with your automation script as well. Yeah.
Do you know of any equivalent tools for native apps?
Native apps, I did not look into that, but not on top of my head.
Gotcha. Like say if you wanted to use apping with WebdriverIO, Lighthouse probably would not work for native apps.
No, I don't think so, but I cannot be certain on that. I didn't look into that perspective.
Okay, yeah. Just wondering. Thanks.
But definitely mobile web apps is going to be helping you out in that.
Can I also add something?
Sure, please, go ahead.
Sorry, not to be too salesy, but it's my job. So your BrowserStack also has a mobile app performance product as well. So that's integrated as part of our App Live product. And then we're also working to include that as part of our automation scripting as well.
Is that proprietary or is there any underlying?
I'm not sure what the underlying engine is, but I should know. We don't know.
Yeah, but mostly these are web accessibility, right? So if that is going to be rendered on desktop browser or mobile browser. So that's how their emulation works. But for native apps, I think so that might not be available out of the box.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I misspoke. I meant app accessibility product we just launched very recently.
Oh.
Yeah, and that is a proprietary. We built it in-house.
And many tools, even Lighthouse is using DQ. Yeah. DQ has the NPM package as well. You can directly include it. But besides this topic, yeah.
Play with Playwright, but not with WebDriver. Not yet.
Playwright also uses DQ.
Yeah.
Everybody's using DQ.
Exactly.
Yeah. They have monopoly in that space. Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We're going to wrap this up with the last talk. Thank you all for staying so long and listen to me talking now. Perfect. Yeah, hello everyone. Thanks you all for coming. Thanks for the people that have been all involved in organizing that and coming to give a talk. I wanted to wrap this event up with introducing you WebDriver version 9, which we have released 2 months ago, which uses the new WebDriver Bidi capabilities. And this talk will be a little bit about what you can do now, what you haven't been able to do before, show some features and some new updates on the commands with WebdriverIO. For people who don't know me, I'm Christian. I'm working as a full stack engineer at a company called OutSystems, where I work on a open source project called Stencil. If you ever build web components, you should look into working with Stencil. But on this side, I'm trying to maintain as much as possible to the WebDriver project and help participate in conversations with the browser vendors to build browser standards so we can test the browser in the same way, not only Chrome but also Safari in the same way with one single standard. I want to start today with giving a little bit project state of the art on WebdriverIO, where the project is right now and where we think we go. Then I want to introduce some Bidi features, talk about some breaking changes, and what's going to be next. So WebDriver actually started around 2012 with its first release. Back in the day, it's called WebdriverJS. Not many people know that. We had to rename it to WebdriverIO for various reasons. And eventually, we contributed the project to the JS Foundation, which is now the OpenJS Foundation. And the foundation kind of like helps us to have the project grow in a sustainable way, have a governance so that everyone can participate and get something out of the project. We were one of the first adopters of the WebDriver protocol, and now try to be also the first when it comes to adopting the WebDriver Bidi protocol. Not today, but 2 months ago, we released WebDriver version 9 with Bidi support automatically enabled. So if you still use version 8, you have to enable it through a capability. In version 9, it's already enabled. We have about 1.5 million weekly downloads, a couple of stars on GitHub. Thanks to companies like BrowserStack, we have now about like $4,000 a month of funding, which we give back to every contributor to the project. So if you raise a pull request on WebdriverIO, I guarantee you it will be, if it's a small documentation change, it will be expensed. And you get like the minimum I think we give out is like $15 for like a simple fix. But it can go up to 1,000 if you really contribute something meaningful. We have a lot of members on Discord. That's where we hang out in the project. Dropping like 590 unique contributors. And that's how this project survives. It's like it's not baked by any company. It's run by individuals that are interested in testing, like Umer, and that's I think the awesome part about the project, me personally. And we have about like 68 people that are now part of the project and contribute. Some of them don't contribute a lot, some of them contribute more. So we try to grow that number every time. And we have a big ecosystem, 45 plus plugins and services and reporters. Again, thanks to companies like BrowserStack that pitch in, they help financially to have this project continue to grow and to develop. And so it's very awesome that this is now becoming the more mainstream thing to do. And BrowserStack actually was like a real key figure in spearheading all these sponsorships. So again, we pay out every contributor. If you become part of the project, like in a technical steering committee member, then you can get out up to $80 an hour, which usually never happens because we work way too much on the project. So it usually ends up around like $30 an hour, but it's still like a lot of money that you can earn on the side. So if you have free time, if you're interested in open source, this is one of the projects where you can actually earn money a little bit on the side. Version 9. One of the big things that came with version 9 is WebDriver Bidi support, and really focus on enabling you using WebDriver primitives and getting the most out of the new protocol, the new standard that helps us to automate browser. Just to quick, give you a difference. So the WebDriver protocol, the WebDriver, when you hear WebDriver, it's a protocol, it's a standard that all browsers implement to allow you to automate the browser. Think about it as a REST API where you can make a request to, let's say you want to click on an element, you send a request to the browser executes the command and then gives you a response back. And so before version 9 and all the other versions, it's usually like you do an operation, the browser does it, gives you a response. Then you do the operation, the browser does it, gives you a response. With Bidi now, we have an additional communication channel to the browser through WebSockets. And that allows us to do many, many things at the same time. We can do many more observations of the application at the same time, kind of like giving the WebDriver superpowers that we're now trying to embed into the interfaces for you to leverage those. Starting with one of I think the most exciting features for my side is like testing web components has become much easier. I don't know if who of you have ever tested a web application that used web components, by show of hands. A couple of people? Yeah, web components become the thing, even though some of them hate them, but a lot of companies rely on building modular application through web components. And it has been very problematic to test those because of the shadow DOM. It was not easy to get into or select elements that are within the shadow DOM. So think about this structure. If you want to click on the button, it would be very difficult because we would have first to select this element, go into the shadow DOM, select this element, go into the shadow DOM, and then we have access to the button. That would have been very, it used to be very difficult. So now we have this shadow $ command, which allows you to go into the shadow root and do a query from that specific command. But still, that doesn't really work out. Let's imagine like the structure changes and your button is now further nested. That even won't work out either. Now with WebDriver version 9, we can just use a selector and it will do a lookup in all shadow DOMs at the same time and give you the right element that it finds. So that makes it very easy to select. I'll give you one example. This is a Ionic application built with Stencil, and it uses shadow DOM, web components. So I'm going to show you a little bit. If we look into here, we see that we have the iframe. This is the application. Then the content of the application is within the shadow DOM. Then the date, the component, the datetime component is within the shadow DOM. And then if we look even further, let's say here, where was it? Maybe this one. Like there are even further shadow DOMs, and let's say I want to select this button, I would have all the chains, like go through multiple shadow DOMs, and that would have been very painful to do in the test, and also unreliable. Again, with WebdriverIO version 9, you don't really care about that. You just go directly to the element that you want to interact with, and WebDriver does the job of giving you the right element out of the box. So that's really neat and makes it super easy. Another thing that we added with version 8 is snapshot testing, a feature where you can just do a snapshot of a DOM and do a lot of assertion at the same time, like which classes are assigned to the elements and which content. Makes it very easy to just do a big assertion on a specific part of the page. With shadow DOMs, that was kind of like difficult because again, we cannot look into the shadow root, and so we wouldn't get any information out of the element. With version 9, WebDriver now stitches the DOM together into a declarative shadow DOM. So you can see here that the element returns now its content, its structure through it. I think the battery's out. Oh, test. Oh, perfect. Maybe I clicked the wrong button. But it gives you now the structure of the shadow DOM and even further down. So that's useful for if you do snapshot testing with WebdriverIO. We also enhanced the URL command. Before it was a simple command that gets you to a certain resource, to a certain website. Very simple, very easy. Now with version 9, you can attach headers to that request. So if you want to open an application and you want to mimic an authenticated user, you can provide the authentication header and act on the application or on the page, act on the page as if you would authenticate it. Even if your page is behind a basic authentication, if your page uses basic authentication, you can just pass in an auth parameter with your username and password, which then which basically gets translated into a header as well, like this. But this is just nicer to read. And lastly, if you want to execute some JavaScript, that's probably a better idea. Thank you. If you want to execute some JavaScript before everything else is being executed on the page, we have this now on before load hook that you can use. So this allows you to just change everything on the application that your application interacts with. I have one example here. If your application, for instance, uses the battery API, the web API for getting the battery of your laptop, you can now go in and update the method on the navigator object and just have it return a value that you would expect. And so then you can go on the page and assert that your application shows the right value. And that works for everything. You can literally override a bunch of web APIs, and WebDriver does a lot of that kind of technique. You can override a lot of web APIs to make the application behave the way you are, and it allows you kind of like to go into more detailed use cases when it comes to testing. So very powerful and very, very useful. Some minor stuff that probably not a lot of people were aware of. Version 8 was not really helpful when you would pass in specific objects in JavaScript. Map sets, like these primitives that are basically objects, but special JavaScript object. Like infinity is basically a number, but it's not a number, it's just the word infinity. If you would inject that into an execute command, you would not actually get the right value out of it. With WebDriver version 9 and Bidi, we can now serialize objects that we pass into the browser and basically make them the same objects again. So as you can see here, now we pass an infinity and we actually get infinity in the browser. So that makes scripting and executing scripts on the page a little bit easier. Yeah, you have been talking about setting viewports and emulating mobile phones. This is now much easier. WebDriver Classic would allow you to change the window size. However, this doesn't really allow you to emulate a mobile device, because if you try on your MacBook, for instance, and make a Chrome application as small as possible, it would not go below 500 pixel, I believe. And so you cannot really test a mobile application like this. Thanks to Bidi, we have now the ability to set the viewport size. That means that the browser just stays as it is, but you can tell it to render it into a certain dimension. And that actually now allows you to, even passing in the device pixel ratio, that now actually allows you to do proper mobile testing. Even though you can do actual run mobile tests on WebdriverIO, but if you don't have like mobile devices at your capacity, you can just use this. And we added another emulate primitive that makes it, doesn't have to, so you don't have to remember all these scaling factors for different devices. You can just pass in like an iPhone 15 or Galaxy S3 or whatever, and it will just give you the right form factor. I've talked about this before, but we even created like a specific command for this. When it comes to, again, like injecting JavaScript before anything on the application or in the browser loads, we have now an app init script that allows you to do that. It's different from the execute script, because the execute script only executes the JavaScript at the point where you call the command. The add init script will inject the script and keeps it in the browser. So every time you're opening a page or your page loads, it will execute that script. And something you can do with it is, for instance, in this example, where I initiate a script where I use the mutation observer to just listen to all DOM changes that happen, to all like structural changes on the website. And the callback contains an emit function that allows you to send information back to the Node.js site. So the script runs in the browser, and if you want to get any information out of it back to the test, you use the emit command to send this information back. And then you can listen on the script on events, in this case a data event, and so you get the information that you sent from the browser to your test script. And then at the end, if you want to remove that script from the page again, you can call the remove call. So very useful. We do this for various of things internally hidden away, for instance, also to do like allow you web component querying elements within web components. We do all of this kind of tricks in the background. But there's like an endless possibility now where you can just get any type of information from the application and use it in your test to assert against those values. And we were going to add more of those capabilities in the future. This is, for instance, one example. Emulating the time in the browser was not really possible before. Now it is with the emulate command. And the emulate command actually does the trick of injecting a script for every page load, and it injects a script where it overwrites the set timeout, the time primitives on your website, and it just uses the time that you're setting it to. So in this case, if you say, okay, emulate the clock and set the date to 2021, then if you call the script in the browser, the get time, you get actually the timestamp from 2021. So you can use that to test various you can set the time to the future to test if your application changes the view because something happened and whatnot. This is very useful for those kind of scenarios. Again, you emulate the clock, you set it to a specific time, and then you can, the browser then now behaves on that time. You can move the time forward by one second or backwards by 1 second, and the time will be updated in the browser. a lot of problems that people had when an application would use an alert, like randomly, like an error pops up and you get a random alert. Like that has been problematic because from the automation point of view, you have to dismiss the alert to continue any automation command. That has been a problem, and with actually Chrome driver now automatically dismisses the alert, so that is not even useful at this point, but other browsers don't, and so WebdriverIO now has the ability, will now automatically dismiss alerts when they pop up, unless you specifically listen on the dialog event, and that will tell WebdriverIO, okay, you're interested in this dialog, I will keep it open so that you can do certain assertion on it. Coming to some breaking changes, they are not a lot. I hope that everyone will just be able to upgrade their version 8 to version 9 by just updating the version number. Again, I cannot promise things, and there's still like some bugs when it comes to changing the window, changing to a different window or different frame. There's still some bugs that we're trying to figure out and resolve over the next weeks, but it should mostly work. The thing that you should note is definitely the removal of the dot containing assertions that we have. We removed them to the expect string containing, just to keep our interfaces a little bit easier to like reduce our interfaces and just use something that already exists. You don't have access to JSON wire protocol commands anymore. This is like the protocol that WebdriverIO used many years before. We changed the DevTool service and now call it like the Lighthouse service to provide Lighthouse capabilities. And we removed Bible integration and use TSX now for supporting TypeScript. And we're using native fetch. So we're upgrading our code base and make sure that WebdriverIO uses the latest technologies as possible. But we're not stopping there. We're continuing that in some really amazing new features, especially on the visual side. I don't know if you knew that, but WebdriverIO can actually run storybook tests. So here's an example where WebdriverIO executes, I think about 190 storybook tests. So it detects your storybook application, it detects all the components in it, and then it creates all the tests to create screenshot out of it. So this tests 20 pass, I think it was 190 components within 10 seconds, and then you get the baseline and the snapshots all in here. WebdriverIO saves them. So when you run this test again, it like compares the screenshots to these snapshots. And actually today we released the visual reporter to it. So the thing of like updating your baseline can become very like daunting. You have to see the screenshot and then compare it. Now we have I can actually show that. Now we have like a reporter page, so you can just go in and like compare them and accept changes, decline changes, and that will make the change into the baseline that you have in your project. So this is all the work that Wim has been doing, and it's pretty cool to have that now in WebDriver as well. So go check it out. And what's next? Is the project done yet? Definitely not. We're working on more BiDi features, improving support and fix bugs that come in. We try to improve existing features like component testing. We have some ideas what we can do there. We continuously work on roadmap items. However, the project is available for everyone. So everyone who wants to contribute things to the project, can do that by just coming to our Discord channel, be like, hey, I would be interested to help out with this kind of feature. We need this in our company. You can contribute back to the project through this, and we would love any contribution. Something that we're probably going to start working on, if you all have been using Playwright before, Playwright is awesome because they have this awesome UI that helps you to navigate through tests and debug them. We want to build something similar. I started that some months ago, never really got to finish it, and thanks to the work that also BrowserStack is doing to support the project, we are now able to kick those new projects off. And if any one of you wants to help out, everyone is welcome. Any kind of, however technical you are, we will work with you, and open source can be awesome. So yeah, join us, join the project. We're interesting to have everyone on board because this is a people-driven project. It's not owned by any corporation, and we try to give back as much as possible. So come on Discord, chat with us, join us, and contribute wherever you can. Thank you. Questions? Do you want to? Oh.
You fixed it.
Oh, I switched it.
You were mentioning, like, for example, one thing that I'm facing every day, for example, you are using Selenium to automate a UI, and I have multiple pages, and I have to switch from one page to another, but sometimes it takes 5 seconds, sometimes it takes less than 4 seconds, and we try to keep a maximum threading, for example, of 15 seconds. That sometimes affects efficiency. So you mentioned about the emulate. So is that function capable of scaling the time depending on how our browser or application is reacting to it? For example, sometimes it takes 5 seconds, so emulate is able to just do everything, or let the Selenium WebDriver wait for 5 seconds and then move towards the next function.
Oh, you're saying like having a function to wait until you are able to.
Yeah, for example, next screen arrives. So is that emulate helps us to at the runtime select how much time we need?
No, emulate is usually not a good idea for that. If you want to wait for an element to show up, no matter how long the page takes to load, I would usually recommend to use the wait until function. And the wait until function gives you the ability to check for a certain state. So you can query an element if it's there or not. We have even a element.wait for exists. It's always good to use those kind of methods to wait for a certain element to exist before continuing, any other thing. If you want to, and WebDriver does it automatically. If you go to a page and you interact with an element by saying, I want to click on it, WebDriver will refetch the element until it's there. It has these auto waits implemented, so you should not struggle that much with those kind of issues in WebDriver.
Thanks, Christian. Two questions. With the Bidi protocol, are you envisioning that Selenium is also going into that direction and implement Bidi?
Yes. They are actively working on, as far as I know, and they have also implemented most of the, or if not all of the Bidi commands. So yeah, Selenium is an active project.
So Selenium 5 might most probably will be Bidi compliant.
The thing with Bidi is still not a done protocol. Right now, the vendors still decide for new capabilities, and they still will add new things. So projects like WebdriverIO and Selenium, and for Selenium, Nightwatch, for instance, uses Selenium. They will continue adding and improving their Bidi integration as we move forward, as new browsers are being released with the new capabilities.
Right. And one last question regarding deep selectors. So version 8 provides deep selectors.
Right.
Right. How about 9? Because
it
might be we don't need deep selector because that is by default available.
I think you can still use the deep selector in version 9, but you don't need it anymore.
Exactly.
We actually discourage it because it uses some scripts that only allows you to do CSS queries, which works in most of the cases. But for instance, if you use WebDriver's area selectors, accessibility selectors, we use XPath to create a long XPath to mimic the accessibility selector.
Yeah, deep selector doesn't.
That doesn't work with. So the nice thing about version 9 is you can use all the selectors that WebDriver provides you to query all the types.
That might be deprecated.
Yeah, probably at some point we will deprecate that.
Thank you.
Hopefully this isn't too off topic. Would you be able to explain how WebDriver protocol works versus Playwright? What Playwright's doing under the hood?
So Puppeteer started to use Chrome DevTools for automation, right? So eventually, the people that worked on Puppeteer moved to Microsoft to go build Playwright. And the reason for that is that they had a decision probably within Chrome to say, okay, we want to use a standard versus we build our proprietary automation behind the browser. So what Playwright is doing is essentially, it started with using Chrome DevTools, but to other browsers like Firefox or Safari don't provide those kind of capabilities. Chrome DevTools is only for Chrome. So Playwright gives you a patched browser, a patched browser engine. It's not the real browser, it's a patched browser engine, for instance, for Safari, that allows you to do all these automations that it provides you, which you can argue, which is why I'm a big proponent for WebDrivers. Like that cost this maintaining those browser patches can be very daunting and not really very daunting. It could cost a lot of work, but Playwright essentially gives you a browser engine that is being patched to allow you to do these automations across all browsers.
Do you think there's a performance hit because now you have this other layer on top of it?
No, they just inject they modify the browser. There's no performance, or I at least don't know of any performance hits. Okay. And to come back, the idea of WebDriver Bidi is when the browser testing and tooling working group at the W3C decided to standardize WebDriver, it took about 7 years to finalize that standard. In the meantime, there has been a lot of application like React, and React became popular, Svelte became popular, Vue became popular, which required more requirements on testing those applications. And we learned from these experiences that we had with talking to people in the space, where it's we need more introspection capabilities from our automation standard. And that is where they started in 2018 actually to start discussing about this new WebDriver Bidi protocol, which gives us now all these introspection capabilities that that would allow us to, for instance, in WebDriver we can build the same features that Playwright has as well. And we are in the process of doing that, and allow you to do that automation with a real browser instead of just a browser engine.
Yeah, and just to add something to that, so Playwright there's pros and cons to every framework, including Playwright, WebDriver, Cypress, etc. One of the things that we see is, a lot of users complain about this specifically about Playwright, is that the browser version is tied to the Playwright version. Right? So that's something to say oh, when are you going to support this version and that version? It's how come I can't use this old version? And then the second thing is that the mobile side of it, so the Android browsers, the iOS browsers, is very hard to do, just because of the kind of the architecture of how Playwright was made. It was not made specifically for mobile in mind. I think the Android is in beta, and the iOS I haven't seen anything yet, so that's just another limitation there. And if you need, maybe WebdriverIO is a better choice.
And I just recently had someone who wanted to test a Chrome version 30 or 33 or something like that. So there are use cases where you need test different browser versions.
Yeah, and you'll always have the older versions available with the Selenium grid.
With WebDriver, yeah, because it's a standard that is being shipped in the browser, and that standard all browsers behave or obey to it, and it won't go away.
Yeah, that's a good point. I never thought of it's kind of tied to a browser version.
There's a lot of people in the community that specifically ask, why can't I use this version with this version? I'm like, well, it's not my fault. I didn't write this. All right,
So two totally different questions that with each other. First one is reason we choose Playwright, my company, in primarily the gaming business. Playwright supports Electron apps. Has WebDriver started supporting Electron apps, like OpenInfinite, things like that?
Yes, 100%. I should have featured that because the person who develops that did an amazing job building a great Electron integration. So yeah, I think with WebDriver it's a service, and you essentially give the service a parameter where your Electron application exists, and it will do all the jobs of downloading the right Chrome driver, starting the application. It allows you to mock Electron interfaces, so you can make your application behave differently based on the scenarios. So yeah, the Electron integration for WebDriver is great. We have good documentation about it, and one of the things that worked really good.
Perfect, great. Now I have more things to talk about at work. The second question was, you said the comparison of the snapshots.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the other companies like Apple Tools give you the ability to put a percentage, is this 10% deviant from the original baseline? Does WebDriver have anything like that, or plan on doing anything that detailed?
For visuals?
Yeah.
For visual testing, yes, it has that. So you can present the Apple Tools, of course, their business is visual testing. So I knew the founders, and they have a really good algorithm for detecting the image and how elements have moved, because little pixel shifts might not be dramatic, and you can just ignore them. So they have definitely the better engine. WebDriver uses a pixel comparison which sometimes can be difficult depending on how your application is built and behaves. But for that purposes, you have like a way to say, if it's 5% different, it's fine because it usually doesn't matter. You can apply this configuration, yeah.
Perfect, thank you. BrowserStack also has visual testing.
Daniel?
Yeah, I got one on the, just to follow up on his. I'm loud enough. All right, so everyone can hear. Just to follow up on the visual testing, and then what you showed. So, could you possibly use the init script that you showed that said it captures state and then interacts? I think one of the slides, I think it was like the init script. Could you possibly use that with the visual regression tool to capture something and then, because you said it captures if an element changes. So if you were to target an element that you wanted to capture the visual regression, could you like kind of use both those?
Yes, you can, for instance, you can create an init script that waits until a certain element is being rendered on the page, and then with the init, it gives you the information, hey, this element is now here, and then you can call like a screenshot, like comparison command. And you can do the screenshot comparison whenever that element shows up or shows not up. Like there's a lot of like variability, like flexibility here that you can do with the init script and compare like together with the visual comparison primitives.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah.
If there's no further question, I want to thank all of you for coming. I want to particularly thank Daniel for Daniel and BrowserStack for like organizing the event. That wouldn't have been possible with thanks to BrowserStack and Ministry of Testing. Daniel, you wanted to say some words at the end?
I know we were rushing earlier. Yeah, we were rushing earlier just to get everything. So yeah, I'm Daniel from the Ministry of Testing. So we've been here a while, do a lot of test batches. I wanted you guys to grab some merch. Also, if you haven't joined or know anything about the Ministry of Testing, come speak to me later. I'll show you how to join. It's free. All of the content that you usually see here, anyone you want to speak to, huge community. It's worldwide. We have meetups in every state, every country, pretty much. So it's a great resource. After this, come talk with me. We'll sign you up, show you all the stuff of Ministry of Testing. So it's a great community, and I'm really glad you guys are out there. So thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Not to extend this too much longer, but so one of my colleagues is bringing up some free swag for all of you. Woo! I don't want to set your expectations too high, but I heard it might be a Stanley Cup. No, never mind. We'll see. I actually don't have no idea what it is. And then also, please take some pizza, take some cookies, take some soda. I don't need this.
Yeah, take everything.
I also wanted to give something to the speakers, so I can start, I think, with Christian.
Thanks, Dan.
So this is like particularly from BrowserStack. People asked me to give it to you. So.
And you get a car. You get a car.
And then it's like for all the speakers, if you can just maybe one by one.
It's a Stanley Cup.
Things like this, like
this is it.
I don't know if I have
AI is taking the lead.
Let's eat some pizza.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah, I joined BrowserStack 2 months ago.
Oh, how is it?
I've come from a completely different space, so it's challenging to get a sense of the landscape, right? And you know, information is how long is it taking? But that was very helpful, so thank you.
Yeah, thanks for both. You work here in New York?
Yes, I'm based out of New Jersey.
New Jersey?
Yeah.
The BrowserStack has an office here?
No, they don't, but they hire folks, Bromann, Queens, New Jersey, with the intentions of Prasad soon. So I'll be around.
That's cool. Yeah, I mean, I hope we can do more events like this in the city.
They will certainly be able to. So from San Francisco. But
yeah, I mean, I cannot come out every time, but
sure.
You know, you have some amazing speakers that come from Toronto or other places. Happy to support them.
Thanks.
Thanks again.
There are a lot of meetups going on in San Francisco these days? Or
Hello, what?
Meetups and how's the tech scene over there?